If you want to keep your carbon activated water filter working just right, you have to change your media every once in a while. The manufacturer of mine suggests every 5 years or 600,000 gallons. All right, equipment that you're going to need for the job, of course, your carbon media, and they gave you a nice funnel to pour it into your tank. A brand new garden hose, and I cannot stress the importance of that. You're going to be washing your tank out, and the last thing you want to be doing is pouring bacteria inside your tank. If you don't have your original tank filler, don't worry. It came in this cute little kit right here. You have a tank filler, very important O-ring grease, and a cap to cap your valve off when you replace it and you start washing things out. All right, before I try to remove my carbon filter, I've got to bleed the pressure out of the system. So I'm going to first close my main valve here. I'm going to open up a kitchen valve or something in the house to bleed the pressure off. Then I'm going to go ahead and close these valves right here. All right, now that I've let the pressure out of the system, I'm just going to close these valves. And I can return pressure to the system if I want to. That way we can use kitchen sinks, showers, and stuff like that. Water is back onto the house. I'm actually bypassing this entire valve. Pressure has been deleted out of the carbon-free filters, so all I need to do is unscrew these valves. Just like that, we have our carbon-free filter out of the way. Now I'm going to rotate it around just a little bit. This thing is pretty heavy. And I'm going to bleed the water out here, then it'll be light enough so I can get it out of the way. All right, the best way to get the water out of here is just to tip the tank over slowly. I just tried siphoning it out and it doesn't siphon at all. So we're going to pull it away slowly and just let the water drain. Getting your main valve off is actually pretty easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to straddle this with my legs, give a little bit of clamp, and just turn this valve. Actually, you could probably do it without it. It's on hand tight. All right, I am going to dump all of this media into a bucket. Let's get this white tube out of here. Time to make a trash can run. And then we'll rinse this thing out. All right, what I've just spent the last few minutes doing here is washing the inside of the tank out using my handy dandy brand new hose that hopefully is bacteria free. I washed off the valve. Mainly, I was trying to get all the carbon off the threads here so it doesn't bind up when I reinstall this thing. And cleaning all the carbon off this plunger tube here. Also, when I put water in here and held it upside down, a bunch more of the carbon media came out, so I'm really glad I washed this thing. I highly recommend you do as well. If you're wondering why the water looked black when it came out, the water is actually crystal clear. There's just so much of that carbon media in there, it makes the water look black. Kind of like the black sand in Hawaii, if you've ever been there. All right, now the fun part. This handy dandy little rig cap that came with the kit is to go on the end of this thing so you don't get a whole bunch of carbon media down inside this tube here. I'm just setting this thing on the very bottom. I'm going to leave it kind of sitting there. Now if you put this in last, after your carbon is in there, you're not going to be able to shove it down in there. So you really want to go to put this thing in first. So tank is empty, red cap on, funnel is placed on here. Now you might notice some dust coming out of the bag here. That's natural. That's just little pieces of carbon breaking off. This is why you're going to have to let this thing soak and rinse to get all that dust out of there so it doesn't turn into gray water inside your house. All right, now that that's in here, I'm going to clean up the red little cap. And that is the end of the filling process. All right, to get the O-ring out of here, I recommend getting a razor blade. Be very, very careful here. Don't start hacking away. Very carefully put the blade between the plastic rim and the O-ring. You don't want to cut this plastic rim up or nick it. You might actually introduce a leak. So I'm very carefully going to kind of put it in there and just pry the O-ring out ever so gingerly. Then once it's out, we're ready to put the new one in. We'll give it a real good wipe to get any potential carbon granules out of here. Make sure it's nice and clean. And then we're going to inject some grease around this seal here. To get it nice and lubricated, pop the new O-ring in. And then we're going to give it some more grease on the outside here. And we're also going to grease this inner plastic seal right here just to make sure I got to get a nice, good bond. Not really a bond, but a watertight seal and an airtight, so we don't let air into the O-ring here and dry it out and crack it. Remove the red cap. Very carefully install it. Push it in and give it a turn. Now, be very careful when you're putting the threads out. You don't want to cross these threads. If you do, your whole system is ruined. So very carefully, make sure you have a nice, easy to turn operation here. Now I'm going to clamp this with my legs and give it just a little bit of love, not too much, because I'm going to have to get that off in another 5 years. I think that's a good, nice seal. All right, next we're going to put this back where we found it. You're going to run some water through here to wash everything out and let it soak. All right, people, if you've made it this far, you're literally home free. I've got the tank back where it was originally placed. Notice it's not rotated to fit these valves. I've got to fill the thing first, let it soak for 48 hours. So the best way to do that is just to kind of turn it, hook up the hose, my brand new bacteria-free hose, to the adapter that they provided. And after this thing soaks for 48 hours, I'm going to turn the hose back on in a couple of days and let the water spew out of here. And you'll see it's going to go from a kind of a murky black to a very, very clear. That's perfectly normal. That's what you want. There's dust particles there that you saw earlier. We've got to wash that out. But first we have to soak it to dislodge any particles that may be on the actual carbon media. All right, I've got the water on. You can probably hear it run. It's on a slow rate, letting this thing fill nice and slowly. When water comes out, we'll be done with the filling process. All right, so what happens next is I'm going to let this thing soak for 48 hours. But to keep little critters from crawling into my water filter, I am going to shove a paper towel in the end of this thing to keep anything from going in there unwantedly. All right, that's it for this part. See you in 2 days. Welcome back. It's been exactly 2 days now. My tank has been soaking. Now it's time to kind of wash it out. What we're going to do is we're going to hook a hose to the inlet side and run it for 30 minutes, and kind of a low pressure. And then we're going to hook it to the outlet side for about 3 minutes to kind of backwash everything through and get the little granules of the carbon out of that filter, that white filter that we saw a couple of days ago. All right, you see I've got the hoses hooked up. I've got my brand new bacteria-free hose to the inlet side. That's where the water is coming from my house. And I've got an old beat-up hose on the outlet side. That way I can control where the overflow goes. All right, I don't know if you can see this or not, but the filter's been flushing for about 5 minutes now, and the water's getting very, very clear. All right, the water's been running for about 30 minutes now, and it's very, very clear. We're going to go ahead and reverse the process for about 3 minutes. Per the manufacturer's instructions, I have reversed the water lines. I now have the inlet going to the outlet and the discharge coming through the inlet. This is going to reseat all the carbon media around that white filter. We're going to let this thing run for about 3 minutes, then we're done. We can hook it up to the house. All right, one last thing. If you notice, the O-rings are on the sort of the barrel of this fitting, so the O-ring actually goes inside there, so it doesn't take a lot of force on this guy to make the seal. The O-ring does everything from the inside, meaning get you some lube, O-ring lube up these things real good before you put them back in there, just so they get a nice good seal and they don't dry out. All right, now that everything is lubed up, we're just going to simply put the fittings back in the tanks, and don't forget to put the Teflon tape on there. Keep your plastic fittings from binding up. I will get these things hand tight. I will not get a wrench out. Hand tight is all we're going to do. All right, last step of the process is to turn your control valves back on. I'm going to turn the carbon filter on first. Give it about a day, take a few showers and whatnot, get all the sediment that might be still left behind out of the tank before I turn my salt-free conditioner back on. All right, folks, that's it. That's how easy it is to change the sediment in your carbon filter. I think you could probably get it done if you're good in half an hour tops. For a few $100, you have crystal clear water coming into your house. Thanks for watching.